Hey everyone, so in today's video, we're going to be going over the Tesla navigation features and UI. A lot of the videos that I've been posting lately relating to the basics of different Tesla functionality, such as all of these settings, voice commands, grok, and so forth, tend to get quite a bit of views as people obviously see value in them, getting a new Tesla for themselves. So in today's video, we're going to be jumping into all of the features and functionality of how to properly utilize the Tesla's native maps and navigation features. Let's jump in. All right, so once you enter into your Tesla and you're on the home screen here, there are two ways that you can jump into navigation. The first one being clicking right down here and then entering an address, or we can slide the screen like this to reveal the full navigation, the maps as we can see right here. Now, in this case, you can see an arrow indicating where we are currently located. And I want to bring your attention to the bottom right-hand corner here, as this is going to show the real-time location and street, as well as city and province, or city and state if you're in the United States, of where you are currently located. So this is a great way to easily see where you are if you're not entirely sure what street you are on. If we were, say, way over here, it would give us the address, or the street I should say, that we are on. In this case, it would say we're on Carlaw Ave. It would appear right there. So that's a really easy way that you can see in real time where you are currently located. All right, so we're gonna go back now into where we were located right there, and I wanna show you how we can go about navigating to a specific location. So the number one way that we're going to be doing this is clicking up on the navigation bar where it says navigate, and then a keyboard appears right there. Now, before we enter an actual location, I want to bring your attention to this right here, where essentially we can see the past locations as well as suggested locations of where we were going previously in our navigation. So in this case, we have suggested, which I'm not entirely sure why we would have Mark Sports, as I've never really been there, but we also have actual locations that we navigated to in a chronological order. So 4 days ago, I went to this coffee shop. A week ago, Joey Lansdowne. So this is just an easy way that you can click on a certain location and it will drive you directly there. For example, clicking on Indigo Pinecrest, it will give us right there two different routes that we can take to get to location. Either this one here that it says 25 minutes, or this one here at 28 minutes. Now, we're gonna come back to that extremely shortly, but first, let's go back into Navigate and put a different location in. All right, in this case, I'm going to put, for example, Joey Lansdowne, which is a restaurant in my hometown. So by clicking on that, it is going to give us a couple different options. Either we can click on Joey Lansdowne, which is that destination, or we can click on one of these here that is going to give us see locations, which is multiple different locations. In this case, it's showing no results. But for example, let's say I just put Joey instead of Lansdowne and clicked enter. Well, it's going to give us a bunch of different locations, either Joey Rito or Joey Lansdowne. All right, so for example, if you had put pharmacy, it would probably give you a bunch of different options for pharmacies. All right, so going back here and clicking on Joey Lansdowne, well, now it is going to be giving us two, in this case, three different options to get there, which is not uncommon. Usually it'll give you about 2 or 3 different ways, unless there is really just one direct way to get somewhere. So in this case, we can see that there's one that's highlighted and 2 that are sort of grayed out. Now, we can choose to go with one of these other options by simply clicking on it, and it'll give you an estimated time based on current conditions, mostly relating to the traffic on each route. So essentially what this is doing is it's looking at the online routing and it is giving us a relatively accurate prediction of how long it'll take to get there. So in this case, it is saying that we would get there at 3:17. It is currently 2:45. It would take about 32 minutes to get there, and it is 17 kilometers. That is the location, and then right here is the percentage, estimated percentage that is, of the state of charge of your Tesla when you get to destination. Now, additionally, down here, we can see the progress bar. So in this case, it's going to show you real time where there might be traffic. This route at 32 minutes, even though it's a bit farther in terms of distance, most likely, doesn't have any traffic. So we don't see any of that right here. If we were to click on this one though, well, it's going to change, showing us here the traffic in real time, some red as well as orange traffic. Even though it's also 17 minutes, it says that it would take, in this case, 35 minutes because of that extra traffic, or 29 minutes on that one, less traffic, and probably a little bit shorter. So hopefully that makes sense for basic navigation. It's relatively straightforward. Now over in this right-hand column though, we can see the exact distances and roads that we would take all the way through that navigation will use. And then at the bottom here, we can see the destination, the address, as well as the battery percentage, and even temperature when we get to destination. All right, now in that case, it had started going, and by clicking right here, right at the top, you can go into two different view modes, either this direct view mode, or by clicking on it, it'll show the entire route from top to bottom. All right, so let's say we did want to go though, we can click on that right there, or by the way, just go and drive and it'll automatically do this. All right, showing you the exact distance and then where to go in real time. Now, if you do have voice navigation on, right, by going into settings, I have it off because it just annoys me, but this will tell you each street, hey, in 10 meters or 100 meters, turn right. All right, that is something that might be useful if you're in a new area that you don't know very well, but driving around your hometown, for me personally, it just annoys me, so I keep it off. If you want to turn it on though, you just do that, and you can bring up the volume up or down. I keep it at off. All right, now, by the way, while we're in the settings here, let's take a look at what this entails. So we can choose to use high occupancy lanes, right? That's a toggle on or off. In this case, usually I drive alone, so I keep it at off. All right. If you have if you usually carpool though, you might want to leave that on, as it might save you a couple minutes if there are some high occupancy lanes in the route over to destination. All right. Now from there, we also have automatic navigation, which will automatically route home, work, or next calendar event upon entry. That is something I also keep off. And by the way, these settings are for all of navigation, not just this trip. I usually keep this off because when I'm getting into the car, it's not always for the same destinations. I work from home, so I don't need it to automatically route me to work or back home. But if you are someone who commutes and you park at work and every single day you're doing that, well, that might be something that you would want to do. From there, we also have Trip Planner, which adds supercharger stops if necessary. I always keep that on because, of course, I would want to know that I need to charge if I'm not going to make it to destination on my full charge. From here, we also have online routing, which finds optimal route based on traffic conditions. I always keep that on because it's going to analyze the current traffic in the city and on the roads and give you the quickest way to get there. Also, by the way, you can choose to reroute to save certain amounts of time. Now, you can go all the way to 1 minute and all the way up to what? 30 minutes. I've tried a lot of these different ones, not 30 or up to 15. I've done usually between 1 and 10 minutes. And I find keeping it at 1, it's constantly bringing me through little neighborhoods, and it's honestly just a pain and kind of annoying. I find the sweet spot is 5 minutes, where let's say there's an accident midway through or more traffic than anticipated. 5 minutes is sort of the sweet spot to save that extra amount of time without bringing you through all these extra little neighborhoods to save like a minute or two. So 5 minutes personally is where I like to keep it at. Speed camera chime is the next toggle. I always keep that on, and essentially what that does is it will indicate where there is a speed camera on your route and make a little chime in the vehicle to alert you that it is upcoming. I personally always like to keep that on. Then we can choose to avoid tolls or not, ferries, and highways. And then finally, we have third-party charging stations. This shows fast charging stations and destination charging stations not owned or serviced by Tesla. I guess if you're going sort of outside of urban areas, this might be smart to leave on. I've personally never had it on, and I've even done a 6,000-mile road trip and only used the Tesla supercharging network. It was totally fine. So I kind of just keep that off, but honestly, you could just leave it on if you so choose. All right, now going back out of that, I want to bring our attention back to those 3 dots because there are a couple other things here that we can set. Number 1, we can choose to add a stop. Pretty straightforward, but let's take a look at this just to show you what it is. Let's say on my way to the restaurant, I wanted to get a workout in. I can click on that. Well, now it's going to have a stop being first a gym, and then after that, we're going to go to the restaurant. Okay, pretty straightforward. And by the way, if you wanted to remove a stop along the way, instead of clicking on add stop, we would click right down here on edit trip, and it's going to show us the different stops along the way. So we could choose to exit that one, click done, and it's going to revert back to our initial route. All right, and finally we have set arrival energy. So setting arrival energy is really straightforward as well. You can say, hey, when I get to destination, I want to be at X charge limit. For example, okay, let's say I wanted to arrive somewhere at 80%. Why would you want to do that, by the way? Well, you might want to do that because let's say you're going to the airport, right? Or you're going out of the city and you won't have access to charging. Well, you want to make sure that you have ample amount of state of charge so that when you get back in and leave, you're able to leave with an adequate level of charge. Now, in this case, this wouldn't really make sense because I can make it to destination, but it is going to route us to the nearest supercharger, have us charge up, and then go to destination, which then I would be at 80%. Okay, so we're gonna go back to 50 and click save. Now in this case though, remember, because getting there at 47 is below our 50%, it still wants us to go to that supercharger. So what I usually do is I just clear the whole thing, and I don't usually have this setting on. All right, so believe it or not, we're mainly through all of the functionalities. There's only a couple more things that I want to show you. We're going to end that current trip, and we are going to click on the screen itself. Why are we going to click on the screen? Because I wanted to show you that by clicking on the screen, it both appears and disappears this right column. All right, so you click on that and it'll appear and disappear. What are these over here on the right? Well, up here on the top, we have this, which either toggles between satellite and non-satellite view. In this case, it was pretty straightforward. It showed you that we were on satellite, and by clicking on it, it brought us out of satellite. Now, there is a new feature that just came out where when you're in non-satellite view, you can have it on 3D. By clicking down below there, that only appears when you're on non-satellite view. I think it's kind of a cool feature. It's kind of useless, but at the same time, it is also somewhat interesting when you're, say, driving through large buildings. Let's say you're driving through Manhattan, driving in a neighborhood, it doesn't hit the same, but even still, kind of a cool feature nonetheless. Now below that, we also have this right here, which is a traffic light. By clicking on that, it toggles on and off the current traffic in and around where you're driving. So right now you can see no traffic, or by clicking on that, we can see where there is, in this case, light traffic and heavier traffic. All right, we're gonna remove that right there and go to the one right below, which is points of interest. So we can see there's, this Elmer Mall, we have a couple grocery stores, a golf course. By unclicking on that, well, it makes the entire map free of any clutter if, you just want a cleaner look. But if you're interested in both, you can toggle both of them on. And then below that, very straightforward, we have supercharger. Now in this case, we can choose slower superchargers, or we can choose a mix of both or just one. In this case, it's showing us the superchargers that are kind of all full here. I live in Ottawa where there are almost no superchargers. It's really ridiculous, but nonetheless, it's showing us that supercharging station right there. It'll show you the current cost per kilowatt hour, the amount of stalls available, the distance, and then the kilowatt hour maximum. This is really useful when you're on a road trip, you're driving somewhere, and you just want to see in real time, like where all the chargers are. As you can see here, this is Canada, and then just jumping right into the US, look at the amount of superchargers in the US. It's absolutely insane. And I really wish there were more superchargers in Canada. Okay, and then below that, we have this right here, which is going to show us the current weather in terms of clouds and so forth. All right, so I needed to zoom out to see current clouds because it is not raining right here in Ottawa, but we can see a huge rain cloud here, and it shows you over time, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. It's currently 3, what the movement of those clouds is looking like. Kind of cool, but honestly, I have never really used that. All right, and then finally, two last little things here. We have up here, we're able to change the orientation of navigation. So in this case, this is my preferred one, where it's going to just, the map is going to change with the orientation that your car is pointing. So let's say I was going down the street here and I, let's say, turned at this street. well, the whole map would change like this while I'm going that way, so that it is always pointing up. That is currently like my favorite over years of driving. I find the other way is just kind of confusing. So yeah, we can click on that. That's that one. Otherwise, we can have N north, where it's always pointing north. When I'm driving south or east or west, though, I just find it confusing. So we can have that one, or go back into that one. Now, if we do have a destination in mind, though, there's a couple other to choose from. This one here is going to show you at all times the entire distance. We can do north again, south, and then yeah, this one where it shows you from start to finish the entire route and has your little arrow following that route. Oh yeah, actually I almost forgot. So I wanted to bring up the fact that the settings that you have for these, so traffic, points of interest, as well as the maps, is actually tied to your driver profile. So see how every time I click on it, the driver profile updates right there. See that? It says saved. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because let's say you have 2 or 3 people who drive the same vehicle. The way they leave this is going to automatically like take precedent when they get in the car and they're driving that vehicle. And I didn't know this for a while, so my wife had like different settings, and I could not understand why when I would get into the car, I could never see the traffic because it would always be hidden. So yeah, if you want the traffic or whatnot, you can set these settings to yourself. You click on it, leave it like that, and it saves it to your driver profile. Okay, last thing here, really useful one when you're out and about. You can get in your car and just swipe like that, and it will navigate to your work address. Or if you do it down, it'll navigate to your home address. And then you can set right here, I undid this, you can set where your work is. So when you get in and you just swipe like that, it brings you directly to your work or home, vice versa, depending on where you are. Because I'm relatively close to my home right now, it is trying to give me a work address, but let's say I was out in the city, I do that, it'll go and navigate directly back home. All right, so that pretty well covers all of the navigation features of the Tesla UI. I really hope this was helpful. If you have any comments, leave them down below. I will answer all of them as best as I can. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I post at least once a week, often twice. And if you want to help support my work, check out the links I have down below in this video's description for some great Amazon accessories for your Tesla, as well as also picking up a $5 delivery day checklist if you are picking up a brand new Tesla for yourself. Thanks all for watching. Hope you enjoy your Tesla vehicle, and I will see you in the next one.